Walking back to the bench, like, oh, I can't believe you got a foul for. Look at this. No play on the ball. 2 hands. Boom. Clothesline Sophie Cunningham right in the face. One more time. No play for the ball. Clotheslines Sophie Cunningham right in the face. Sophie Cunningham got up immediately, like, are you out your fucking mind?
That is the play everybody is arguing about. No attempt to reach the basketball. Cunningham takes the contact high, immediately gets up, and now one hard foul has turned into something much bigger than a normal August WNBA argument. But the foul itself is only the beginning, because what happened after Carrington left the floor changed the entire conversation.
Let this clown beat it. You're not getting ejected too. Sophie Cunningham didn't get called for a foul. Didn't get called for a technical foul after pushing DJ Carrington. Get that bum ass out of here. Go sit in the locker room and think about what you did. But again, these players have no shame. So DJ Carrington goes into the locker room and she tweets out, white privilege. DJ Carrington goes into the locker room and tweets out, white privilege.
And this is where the story stops being just another physical basketball moment. Carrington was ejected while Cunningham stayed in the game. And according to the posts being discussed here, Carrington then wrote white privilege. That immediately opened a second argument about officiating, race, punishment, and whether 2 players looking at the same sequence were seeing 2 completely different things. Keep that in mind, because later there is another post that matters even more when you ask what this rivalry could look like.
Then the game goes on. And then DJ Carrington says, 8:23. 8:23. August 23rd. The next time the Chicago Sky and the Indiana Fever meet. And my question is, DJ Carrington, is that a threat? Are you threatening Sophie Cunningham? Are you threatening a player on the Indiana Fever?
Are you threatening Sophie Cunningham? Are you threatening a player on the Indiana Fever? That can be read several different ways. Could simply mean circle the rematch. Could be trash talk. Some fans interpreted it as threatening, but there is no basis here to state that Carrington actually threatened Cunningham. The important part is what the post did publicly. It gave everybody a date and guaranteed that the next—
Oh my God!
Shout out to Venom Reacts, Venom. Shout out to you. Sophie Cunningham's like, what the f are you doing? What the F are you doing? They get into a little scuffle. Michaela Timpson separates the 2. DJ Carrington, with her fake hair, fake nails, walking back to the bench, like, oh, I can't believe you got a foul for. Look at this. No play on the ball.
Watch Cunningham's reaction more than Carrington's for a second. She does not stay down selling contact. She gets up and confronts her immediately. That matters because Cunningham has built a public identity around being willing to answer physicality instead of backing away from it. So when this exact matchup became heated, neither player had an incentive to make the moment smaller. Carrington had already delivered the foul. Cunningham immediately challenged it. Players separated them before it turned into something worse. The league now has a clean basketball decision to make. What?
Cunningham got up immediately, like, are you out your fucking mind? Michaela Timpson, quick, pulling her apart. And I know Sophie Cunningham wanted to get after. Sophie Cunningham wanted to get active, as they say. Sophie Cunningham wanted to get active right there, right then and there. Michaela Timpson pulled him apart. Yeah, nah, Sophie, you ain't getting ejected too. Let this clown.
Michaela Timpson getting between them might be one of the most important things in the entire sequence. In emotional moments like that, retaliation can completely change who gets blamed. Cunningham pushes forward. Carrington is backing away. Teammates and officials intervene. And the confrontation ends before Cunningham does something that could have earned her an ejection. 2. That distinction becomes central to the white privilege criticism afterward, because the officials were not necessarily judging 2 identical actions. They were judging the original high contact, then the reaction, then whatever happened during the confrontation. Whether you agree with the result or not, those are separate decisions. And this is where people make these controversies impossible to discuss. Music, one side sees Carrington being unfairly singled out. The other sees Cunningham getting hit in the face and wonders how anybody could possibly make Cunningham the villain. But officiating does not become clearer when everybody jumps straight into identity politics. Freeze the sequence. Ask what the contact was. Ask whether there was a basketball play.
The type of person that you are. Sophie Cunningham laughing and clapping after Dejanay hit her in the face. Yeah. Yeah, Sophie Cunningham, good sport about it. After the fact, of course. Here we got Stephanie White.
Then Cunningham does something that makes the whole situation even more interesting. After the confrontation, she is laughing and clapping. You can read that as competitive theater, confidence, sarcasm, or simply a player enjoying the fact that she survived the collision and stayed in the game. What you cannot reasonably call it is somebody looking intimidated, and that creates a strange strategic problem for opponents. If the goal of playing Cunningham physically is to get inside her head, moments like this suggest the exact opposite can happen. The confrontation can energize her teammates, and turn her into the emotional center of the game. Suddenly, the player you wanted to rattle becomes the player everybody is watching. That does not mean teams should avoid contact. Basketball is physical. It means there is a difference between disciplined physical defense and a foul that gives the other team a grievance, a rallying point, and endless replay footage. There is also a business angle here that nobody involved can really escape. The WNBA is drawing more attention than it has in years, and Indiana games in particular are watched under a microscope. That means every confrontation involving a Fever player gets clipped, slowed down, posted, reposted, and argued over almost instantly. Players know it, coaches know it, broadcasters know it, the league knows it. So, the cost of losing your composure.
Sophie Cunningham wasn't really getting booed in Chicago. Sophie Cunningham not getting booed every time she touches the ball shows how crazy the fans in Portland, Seattle, and Minnesota truly are. And this person said, am I crazy or is she getting a loud cheer from the crowd when she checks in? Announcer, a lot of people online were saying Sophie Cunningham's getting cheered. A lot of people online saying Sophie Cunningham was getting cheered.
Now, notice something else from the arena reaction. The source commentary points out that Cunningham did not appear to be receiving overwhelming boos in Chicago music, and that some online viewers thought they even heard cheers when she checked in. Crowd audio can be difficult to interpret through a broadcast. So, I would not turn that into a definitive claim about what every person in the building thought, but it does show how Cunningham's public image is not as simple as every opposing crowd hates her. That matters because polarizing players often become attractions. Some people watch hoping they win. Some watch hoping they lose. Some simply want to see whether the tension follows them into the next game. From a league perspective, all of those people still count as viewers. Cunningham is increasingly becoming one of those players where the reaction itself becomes part of the show. Carrington, through this controversy, is part of the same equation now. And there is an irony here. The players and fans arguing about politics may believe they are exposing some deep divide inside the league, while commercially they are creating exactly the kind of rivalry sports leagues spend years trying to manufacture. Indiana versus Chicago already had attention. Now you have a date attached to the next meeting, a flagrant moment to replay, competing social media messages, and two players who clearly are not afraid of confrontation.
Copeland. Put a fist in the air, Kareem Copeland. Sophie Cunningham, big mad after a foul from Dejanay. This is a writer, journalist, loser for ESPN. This is what we're doing. Sophie Cunningham, big mad after a hard foul. You know this guy was happier than a pig in shit. You know this guy.
Controversy. ESPN writer Kareem Copeland described Cunningham as big mad after the foul, and critics immediately treated that wording as evidence that coverage itself was taking sides. Now, there is nothing inherently scandalous about a reporter using a sarcastic phrase online. Music sports writers have personalities. They react. They joke. But when the underlying play involves a player taking high contact and being ejected, music wording becomes part of the story because fans are already hypersensitive to perceived bias. This is one of the biggest problems surrounding WNBA coverage right now. The audience is not only judging what happened on the court. It is judging who appears sympathetic toward which player, which outlet framed the incident one way instead of another, and whether the same language would be used if the roles were reversed. Sometimes those accusations are fair. Sometimes fans are simply reading bias into everything because they already distrust the person writing it. The healthier standard is consistency. If Cunningham clotheslines Carrington, call it reckless if that is what the replay shows. If Carrington does it to Cunningham, use the same language. If Clark, Ree, Wilson, Buchers, or anybody else delivers the contact, the name on the jersey should not determine the vocabulary. That sounds obvious, but the entire reason fans keep having these debates is because
about you. That's all I got to say about you. Shout out to Bane, digging up an old clip. To be here with you guys today, Dejanay, you're always in a dirty play.
Dejanay.
Damn.
Dejanay.
Whoa.
Once again, here we are today.
Oh.
Dejanay.
And now we get to the part that makes this incident more damaging for Carrington than if almost any other player had committed the same foul. History. The source brings up old clips and essentially asks why Carrington keeps appearing in controversial physical sequences. That does not automatically prove intent in this one. That distinction matters. A previous foul cannot tell you what somebody was thinking during a later play, but reputation absolutely changes how new moments are interpreted. Once fans associate a player with reckless contact, every borderline incident gets viewed through that lens. The benefit of the doubt disappears. This happens across sports. A defender known for clean physical play can make a dangerous-looking tackle and people first ask whether it was accidental. A player already carrying a reputation gets the opposite treatment. Viewers assume pattern before they examine detail. Sometimes that is unfair. Sometimes the pattern genuinely deserves scrutiny. Either way, reputation becomes a competitive liability. For Carrington, that means the smartest possible response after something like this is not another vague social media war. It is several weeks of basketball where nobody can clip another high-contact play and connect the dots because once the debate stops being was,
How come every time I'm in the kitchen, you in the kitchen? And I'm starting to have that feeling when it comes to Dejanay Carrington and dirty basketball, Dejanay Carrington and flagrant fouls. How come every time I'm watching a flagrant foul, you're committing the foul? How come every time I'm watching a dirty play, you in the play? Dejanay, can we go a week without you flailing and going after somebody? Can we just go one?
conversation is much harder to control. How come every time I'm in the kitchen, you in the kitchen? And I'm starting to have that feeling when it comes to Dane Carrington and dirty basketball. Dane Carrington and flagrant fouls. How come every time I'm watching a flagrant foul, you command the foul? How come every time I'm watching a dirty play, you in the play? DJ. Laughter. Can we go a week without you flailing and going after somebody? Can we just go one? Because it captures exactly how internet reputations get built. Not through one definitive incident, but through accumulation. One clip, then another, then an old clip resurfaces, then somebody makes a compilation. Before long, thousands of people who never watched the full games believe they know a player completely from 20 seconds of contact. That is why both sides need some discipline here. Carrington's critics should judge this foul aggressively if they think the replay supports it without pretending that a replay gives them access to her thoughts. Carrington's defenders can argue context or officiating without pretending the contact did not happen. You can criticize a basketball play without turning the person into a cartoon villain. You can defend a player without rewriting video evidence. And there is another layer. The fever cannot become consumed by every confrontation. Indiana has enough basketball pressure already. Every opponent...
Week, that's all I'm having.
Damn, can we just go 1 week? Now, the crazy part about this, Dejanay treats white privilege. What if Sophie Cunningham fouled Dejanay Carrington and then Sophie got tossed and said black privilege? Or Sophie got tossed and said protected species? Again, by and large, and I say this every week, by and large, the majority of the players in the league agree with Dejanay Carrington.
Now we can finally unpack the white privilege post, because this is the part that turned a basketball dispute into an ideological one. Carrington appears to be arguing that Cunningham benefited from unequal treatment after the confrontation. People defending that interpretation would point to the simple visual outcome. Carrington gets removed. Cunningham stays. From that perspective, the post is not necessarily about denying the original foul. It may be about what happened once both players came together afterward. But there is an obvious counterargument. Equal treatment does not mean identical punishment when the actions are different. If officials determined that Carrington committed the ejectable act while Cunningham's response did not independently rise to that level, then different penalties are not evidence of unequal treatment by themselves. You would need more than the final result. You would need to show comparable conduct being handled differently. That is why the post created more heat than clarity. It introduced a massive claim without explaining the specific officiating decision Carrington believed was discriminatory. Was she arguing Cunningham should have received a technical foul? An ejection? Was she saying her own ejection was excessive? Was she referencing something said during the confrontation? Without that detail, everybody fills the blank with whatever they already believe. And once that happens, nobody is debating the same question anymore. One group is discussing the flagrant contact. Another is discussing racial bias. Another is discussing Cunningham's previous comments. Another is discussing league
Again, I'm sorry. I begin to get tired of this league. You know what I mean? There's only so much you could tolerate before it's like, you know what? Fuck all this. And DiJonai Carrington in this league, folks, you're gonna tell me that this was not political? You don't think this was political? You don't think this was, oh, I disagree with Sophie Cunningham. Wait until the next time I see her. Oh, wow, Sophie Cunningham's speaking truth to nonsense. Wait until the next time I see her. Everybody knew that. Shout out to CJ So Foolish.
The source commentary goes even further and suggests the foul was politically motivated because of Cunningham's public positions. That is speculation, and there is no evidence in the material provided that establishes Carrington intentionally hit Cunningham because of politics. It is important to say that clearly. But the reason people are making that connection is understandable from a storyline perspective. When two public figures have become associated with opposite sides of a cultural argument, audiences start interpreting ordinary conflict through that larger feud. A hard foul stops being a hard foul. It becomes retaliation. A social media post stops being trash talk. It becomes a political message. Every action is assigned symbolic meaning. Sports history is full of that. Rivalries become powerful because fans believe the players represent something larger than themselves. Cities, styles, generations, personalities, sometimes politics. The danger is that narrative can outrun evidence very quickly. If Carrington wanted to respond to Cunningham's views, a basketball court is the worst possible place to create ambiguity about that. And if Cunningham supporters automatically interpret every hard foul as ideological retaliation, they risk turning genuine basketball competition into conspiracy. Both can be true. The players may deeply disagree off the court, and a specific foul still needs to be judged based on what happened in that possession rather than a theory about motivation. What we do know is enough. Music, the contact happened. Carrington was ejected. Cunningham stayed in the game. Carrington made the white privilege post being
W360, go subscribe. We had to have a feeling coming to this game, oh, DiJonai is going to try to get off. If not her, Natasha Cloud. One of them is going to try to get off. And it just so happened, DiJonai struck first. We're going to double back to Caleb.
And there is the payoff to that earlier date. The rematch now carries baggage before the teams even arrive at the arena. August 23rd is no longer just another point on the schedule. Assuming both players are available, every normal defensive possession between Carrington and Cunningham will be watched differently. If Carrington reaches across Cunningham's body, cameras will catch it. If Cunningham gives a hard screen back, people will clip it. If either one talks after a whistle, social media will immediately start writing the sequel. That puts pressure on the officials, too. They cannot overreact to ordinary physical basketball simply because the previous game became controversial, but they also cannot allow obvious escalation. The best officiating performance in that rematch will probably be one nobody remembers. Establish the line early, communicate it clearly, and avoid letting frustration build until one play becomes a fight. The coaching staffs have an even bigger responsibility. These are professional athletes and adults, but coaches understand game temperature. If there is obvious tension, you remind everybody before tip-off that winning matters more than winning an argument. Chicago cannot afford to have Carrington removed from a meaningful game because she is trying to answer social media. Indiana cannot afford to have Cunningham thrown out retaliating. And there is the strange final twist. For all the anger surrounding this, the league wins attention. Fans who might never have cared about an August matchup now know the date. Sports television will replay the foul before the game. Social accounts will circulate the posts. Every matchup between these players will get a camera cut. The controversy generates exactly the thing professional sports survives on: emotional investment. The question is what kind of investment the WNBA wants. Rivalries are good. Physical basketball is good. Players disliking one another can be great television, but reckless contact accusations that cannot be meaningfully evaluated. And every disagreement turning into a culture war referendum eventually exhausts the audience instead of energizing it. The best version of this rivalry would be simple. Carrington and Cunningham stay on the court, guard each other, talk if they want to talk, compete hard, and settle the tension through basketball because nothing would frustrate the opposing fan base more than dropping 20 points and winning the game. And that is